And welcome back, friends, to the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben, and we're glad to have you with us. 844-236-6010 is our phone number. Got lines open for you, 844-236-6010. If you have questions about the longevity products, business, health challenges you or a loved one may be dealing with, a comment or success story you'd like to share, or just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. I love hearing from you. We all love hearing from you. Like it when the show is a dialogue and not a monologue. Much more entertaining to have two people talking than just to have me talking. 844-236-6010. We'd love to hear from you. We got your longevity products and join the team now link that you can click on if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team on our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. News stories, blog posts, videos, free information, lots of good health information. I've been doing videos now with my good friend Jonty for many years, and they're all up at criticalhealthnews.com. We also have our Moments of Truth, which I do every morning. Did one today on essential fatty acids and the skin. In my humble opinion, EFAs are the missing link to skin health. You know, when they're testing what a vitamin or a nutrient or an essential substance, a mineral and such does for the body, they take the substance out of the they do animal tests. They take the substances out of an animal's diet, and then they see what goes wrong, and then they know that there was a zinc. Zinc is associated with the immune system, and vitamin A is associated with the eyes, and B vitamins are associated with mental health and brain health and energy in general. Because when they take the B vitamins out, there's energy problems and there's heart problems. They take vitamin A out, there's eye problems, and they take zinc out of the diet, and there's immune problems. That's how they assess what nutrition does for what part of the body, how nutrients work in the body. Well, when they take essential fatty acids out of an animal's diet, it doesn't take long before the very first symptom is skin problems. Dry skin, crepey skin, thinning skin, oily skin. All of the things that we hate about our skin show up under EFA deficiencies. Now, I'm not saying all skin problems are EFA deficiencies, but I'm saying that there's a big role for essential fatty acids in the skin. And when people ask me, what's the number one thing you could do for your skin in terms of nutrition, I always say essential fatty acids. Actually, I say fats, because all the fats are important. Vitamin A is important, vitamin D is important, vitamin E is important, zinc and selenium are important, vitamin K, not so much for the skin, but for the circulatory system, the skin circulation, phytonutrients that are in plants and vegetables. The fats are the key to having beautiful skin. Now, it's not to say that only the fats, but the fats are harder for the body to get. Vitamin C is certainly important. The B complex are certainly important, but they're easier to get. It's the fats. The fats. We've got to get it down. It's the fatty system of the body that is a major underappreciated and under-recognized aspect of good health. And that means how we process fats at the level of the liver and the pancreas and the stomach. And fats are hard to process. The gallbladder, of course, the bile. And then also intake of fats. The fats that we intake are, like many of the nutrients we get in our body, not quality fats. Especially essential fatty acids, which are so unstable, and especially considering the EFAs are so important for the skin. Dry skin should never happen. Let me say that again, because that's really important. Dry skin should never happen. Nobody should have dry skin. Raise your hands out there if you have dry skin. Everybody has dry skin if they're not supplementing with essential fatty acids, which are really how your skin is, I'm not going to say it's the only thing, but it's a major thing for keeping your skin moist and soft, is essential and hydrated, is essential fatty acids. Now, vitamin A is important and good health is important, obviously, but EFAs are the missing link, in my humble opinion, for a couple reasons. Number one, they're unstable, so they come out of, it's hard to get them from food, it's almost impossible. And number two, they're hard for the body to process once you get them into the system. Supplementing with EFAs can change your life, especially if you're dealing with a skin problem, and especially, super especially, if you've never supplemented, if you're not hip to nutritional supplementation, which, as I've said, is not perfect, of course, but it's really helpful, and it's the best we can do, because it ain't in the foods. So I did my moment of truth today on essential fatty acids in the skin, and all our moments of truth are up on our Facebook page, The Bright Side with Pharmacist Ben. They're also on our website, criticalhealthnews.com. And you can also find all the longevity products at criticalhealthnews.com, as well as brightsideben.com and pharmacistben.com. And you can find our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. Truthtreatments.com. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, silicone, oil, water. Nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Skin Health products, because you shouldn't have to pay for stuff that your skin's not using. And you should only have to pay for active and functional ingredients, and that's what you get with Truth Treatments. Only active and functional ingredients in all of our products. Every molecule is there for you, and that's a good deal. That means you're not paying for water. That means you're not paying for emulsifying wax. That means you're not paying for cetyl alcohol and stearyl alcohol and preservatives. And even if it looks like the price is high, it's not. Especially when you factor it in, you take into account the fact that you only use 1 or 2 drops of our Truth Transdermal C Serum, a tiniest pea-sized amount of our Truth Transdermal C Balm. You get beautiful, soft, glowing skin. In the long run, you get dramatically diminished, I might add, fine lines and wrinkles, clearer skin, and just healthier skin, because it's about the health of the tissue. Beauty should follow health, in my opinion. Beauty should follow health. How we look should follow how healthy we are, because really, when we're assessing each other, and this is what really beauty is about, we assess each other, we look at each other and assess each other, like it or not. It's part of evolution, evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology, is that we look at each other and make an assessment. We make an assessment for safety, we make an assessment for health, and we make an assessment. That's basically it, health and safety. We're basically looking for some place safe, and health has an implication for safety. And that's what it's like. That's what beauty's like. And also, we're probably looking at each other for mating. That's right. It's probably a third thing there, for fertility, for reproducing. Those are the 3 elements: health, reproduction, and safety. What we're looking at is how healthy the body is, how healthy the person is, how healthy the skin or the face is. So when you change skin health, beauty becomes a natural subsequent event or phenomena. It follows the health. You change the health, you become more beautiful. We're looking at each other for health. We're not looking at each other for wrinkles. We're looking at each other for healthy tissue. You change the health of the body, you naturally look beautiful. All right, TruthTreatments.com, TruthTreatments.com. We're talking about the electrical nature of the body. You can't stick the thing about the electrical nature of the body, much like the body itself in general as a whole, is really misleading. You look at the body, you don't see dynamism. But in reality, there's so much action in a body. I mean, if you're sitting still, it doesn't look like anything's happening. If you're sleeping, it doesn't look like anything's happening. And that's very misleading. And because of that kind of illusionary static nature of the body, how it looks like nothing's happening, it allows us to do all kinds of things. Eat the wrong food, smoke cigarettes, take drugs, prescription or otherwise, because we don't really see what's happening. Same thing with the skin. We don't really see what's happening in the skin, so we don't think anything rubbing stuff on the surface. And when it comes to bioelectricity, which is a real phenomena, cellular electricity, actually, you can't stick a wire into the body and turn on a light bulb for practical purposes. You can't really, it's not the same kind of electricity that turns on a light bulb. It's microscopic microvolts. All right, we'll talk about that when we come back from a break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. All right, we are back on The Bright Side. Lines open 844-236-6010. We're talking about the bioelectrical nature of the body. We said before we went to break how electricity, when we think of it, we turn on a light switch, we get electricity. Actually, we don't even really think about electricity, but we should, because everything is electrical. Everything is magnetic. Everything, a rock is electrical, a rock is magnetic. Everything in our reality can only be perceived because of electromagnetics, and in a way, that's what God is. God is who we live and move and have our being. Live and move, or live and breathe and have our being. Something along those lines it says in the Bible. Well, that's electromagnetism. Everything's electromagnetic. So it should come as no surprise that the health of the body is electromagnetic. Nutrients work electromagnetically, and not even more fundamentally, because electromagnetics that's true, but what is electromagnetics? It's quantum. And don't get put off by the word quantum. Quantum just means the movement of little particles. Boom, left, right, empty. They go up. They go from where there's no particle, where there are particles, to where there's no particles. We'll say positive. I know this gets really confusing, but it's positive charges to negative charges, or negative charges to positive charges. It goes as a current, negative to positive, negative to positive. Negative, for some weird quirk of chemistry, means extra, and positive means less. That's where it gets a little confusing. But don't even pay attention to that. From where there's a lot to where there's a little. And it's this flow from where there's a lot to where there's a little that creates everything. That's called quantum. That's electromagnetics. If you understand that, then you understand quantum, just movement of things, left from where there's a lot to where there's a little. When things don't move, we get sick. When the quantum is not moving, when things aren't moving in the right way, we get sick. And then that initiates, that lack of movement initiates an entire defensive response. That lack of movement puts the body into a defensive posture. It's all movement. Movement of quantum particles, but really you can call it electrical flow. And by the way, a voltage is a push. Voltage is the word we give for the push of the electricity, the movement of the electricity, and negative voltage is the opposite. It's a vacuum. That's called pH. Negative push, pH is just negative push and positive push. I sometimes say vacuum, a fountain and a vacuum. The fountain throws things off, a vacuum sucks things up. And that's all has to do with voltages, and that all has to do with charges, and that's what nutrition's about. Just the movement of things, either to or fro. We want the body to be in a sucking position, or the blood anyway, to be in a sucking position. We want the blood to have a negative voltage, like a vacuum cleaner. Just think of sucking. That's a negative voltage. That's a positive voltage. That's a good, perfect metaphor right there. Positive voltage is when you breathe out, and negative voltage is when you breathe in. When you breathe in, you get a vacuum. It's all breathing. It's inhalation and exhalation. The universe breathes. Inhalation and exhalation. It says in the Bible, it talks about the breath. What do you think the power of the breath is? It's inhalation and exhalation. It's electromagnetics. It's charges. It's pH. It's positive and negative. It's battery. It's current. It's flow. It's voltage. It's all the same stuff. And when we want to get healthy, we want to improve, or we want to improve the voltages in the blood. We want the voltage to be a little bit pulling, a little bit vacuuming. We want it a little negative voltage. Where it gets confusing is positive charges equals negative voltage, and that gets a little bit weird. So don't even go there. Negative voltages, sucking. You want the blood to be a little sucking. Why do you want the blood to be a little sucking? 7.38. 7, by the way, is neutral. Between 7 and 14, you have sucking. Between 0 and 7, you have blowing out, exhaling. Your exhale is between 0 and 7. Your inhale is between 7 and 14. And this is pH. pH goes from 0 to 14. 0 to 7 is exhale. 7 to 14 is inhale. You want the blood a little inhaling. You want it to inhale because you're eating food. You get nutrients. So you want the blood to be sucking those nutrients up. That's why you want your blood, and that's why not you want it. That's why nature will keep it at 7.38. Slightly sucking in a slightly inhaling mode. When you start exhaling in your blood, you are sick because you can't get nutrients. Toxins are in the exhale. Toxins are in the when you blow out in real life. When you exhale and you're with your lungs, you're blowing on acid. Acid's in the exhalation. Acid is in the forward movement. Alkaline's in the backward movement. Your skin you want in a forward movement. Your skin you want acid. Why do you want your skin acid? Because you want it pushing off stuff. You want it moving, dynamic. You don't want stuff sitting around on the skin. So nature made the skin, the outside of the body, acid. The inside of the body, alkaline, so it could suck. All this has to do with the electrical charges. And anything we can do to facilitate electrical charges is going to improve our health. That's what nutrition's about. Reading from the journal Bioelectricity. Yes, there is a journal called Bioelectricity. It has been a great pleasure and honor to have guest edited this first special issue of Bioelectricity on Cancer. This is a letter that one of the editors wrote. It is well known that cancer is one of the biggest killers in humans, although billions of dollars have been spent finding cures for it. Many problems remain across the board. Starting 20 years ago, cancer cells, bioelectricity, has emerged formally as a new concept in the physiology of the disease. Meaning, cancer's bioelectrical. Yes, cancer cells, the electronics of a cancer cell are totally whacked out. Totally whacked. The bioelectricity of a cancer cell is completely different from a healthy cell, the way it conducts charges. A healthy cell, when we talk about bioelectricity, it's easy to picture Galvani in the frog experiment you did in high school. You stick a little pin in the frog and the leg goes up. But electricity also occurs in tiny particles called electrons that you can't see that way. That's how it works with the cell. The cell is passing little particles, atoms, not atoms, subatomic particles, electrons, photons, literally photons, light, through the membrane, and how that happens creates all kinds of electrical energy inside a cell, which is doing, count them, millions and millions of chemical reactions a second. Okay? Millions. I was talking to this guy, this astrophysicist, a couple days ago at a party. I just randomly met him. We started talking. I'm going to have him as a guest on the show. He just finished a book on climate change, which is really interesting. And anyway, I said to him, we were talking about the cosmos and just crazy, and quanta and crazy stuff. And I said, doesn't this make you spiritual? Doesn't this make you religious? He said, heck yes. He says, any scientist who understands this stuff, or who studies this stuff, not understands it, but studies this stuff, can't help but become spiritual. What's going on at the level of a cell is so mind-blowing that you just have to just take it in as best as you can and not let it fry your circuits. So all of this stuff is happening at the level of the electron and the quanta, and it's happening through something called ion channels or voltage gates. This is something we've only understood in the last 20 years, voltage gates. A voltage gate is just what it sounds like. Voltage, meaning electrically dependent, dependent on electrons, electricity, and a gate, like a garage door. There are literally garage doors and garage door openers at the quantum level happening in cells, and by controlling those how fast the energy flows through the garage door openers, cell behavior, cell activity, and cell dynamics is controlled through just the movement of things through the membrane. And this is where polyelectrolytes become really important, by the way, which we use in our skin health products, which we use in our Truth AHA energizing exfoliator, our Truth hyaluronic mineral hydrator. These minerals act to open up voltage gates in plants and in people too. And when you open up a voltage gate, you get a payload. You can get a payload. The voltage gate opens up, you get a payload into the cell. The cells, plant cells get fed, and this is why polyelectrolytes, any good farmer or gardener will sprinkle polyelectrolytes in the soil. Get more voltage gate activity and more payload dumping off, if you will. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back. We're back on the bright side. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have questions about anything we're speaking about here today, or if you want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, call 866-735-2470. Or if you want to sign up to join the Bright Side Ben team, call 866-735-2470 for a one-time $30 fee. You can be in business for yourself. You can also click on the Join the Team links at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. This is from the book Decoding the Human Body Field, which is a super cool book. I have it in my reference library, and I go back to it all the time. I read it probably 20 years ago, but I always go back to it. The Science of Information as Medicine. Modern science has shown, quote, modern science has shown how your physical body is awash in energy in many different forms, such as electrical pulses, vibrations, and pressure waves and sound energies of various frequencies, unquote. Body is an electrical system. The cells are electrical, and we have to address the electricity if we want to address health. Now, you don't need to know all this stuff. You can take your supplements. You don't need to know why it works. But if you know why it works, it makes it easier, number one, to leverage these things. Remember, it's about leverage, to leverage these ideas. But number two, it's interesting, I think. Hopefully you do too. Tomorrow we'll talk about how all this, the relationship between electricity and how everything began. I have a really cool book here called Clay Minerals and the Origin of Life. This is really fascinating stuff. The Bible says life began out of the dust, or God breathed into the dust and created man, something along those lines in Genesis. I don't think it's dust. I think it's clay. And in fact, I'm not the only person who thinks it's clay. There's something called the clay hypothesis that says that life came out of clay. And that is really interesting and has a lot to do with good health. And has a lot to do with bioelectricity. And it has a lot to do with Dr. Wallach's understanding and the understanding of minerals and electrolytes and how important they are. They're the key to life. Yeah, fats are important for maintaining life, but the key to beginning life, to initiating things, that's in these electrolytes. Oh, magical substances that come out of the earth. We'll talk about that. We'll continue talking about all of this kind of stuff. Hopefully you don't find it two out there. I think it's interesting, and it's also definitely helpful if you can absorb it. All right, so we'll continue with that tomorrow. I thought a couple things I wanted to read here. This is from the journal for the Huffington Post. How to prepare for a pandemic. According to U.S. health officials, the new coronavirus is expected to grow into a pandemic, not an epidemic, a pandemic. Pandemic's way worse than an epidemic. An epidemic is that's mild compared to a pandemic. An epidemic is when something spreads across. I think it has to do with size. Epidemic versus pandemic. A pandemic is bigger than an epidemic. What the heck? I don't even know what a pandemic is really. Actually, now that I think about it, pandemic, epidemic, whatever. It's supposed to get big. The new coronavirus epidemic is likely to grow into a pandemic, with additional cases expected in the U.S. possibly within the coming days, federal health officials said last week. Listen, folks, the worst thing you could do is be scared of anything. But just logic would tell you that the coronavirus only affects a very small percentage of people, and it only affects people who are unhealthy, for the most part. To worry about the coronavirus and not worry about the carbon monoxide in the air or the soda you're drinking or the McDonald's hamburger you're eating, or it's crazy. It's really ridiculous. And I'm always suspicious when all of the machinery, all the information dissemination machinery is coherent. Government, the press, your doctor, the medical model, the drug companies. When everybody's saying the same thing, I'm always suspicious. Just call me cynical, but I've been doing this a long time. Build your immune system. Stay away from sugar. Take your zinc. Take your iodine. Make sure you're doing the Mighty 90 Essential Nutrients. Don't drink the soda pop. Don't smoke cigarettes if you're smoking cigarettes. There's all kinds of ways that the body can protect itself, and that's what you want to focus on. Always focus on what you can control. Locus of control. Always. And then the idea of those masks. What do you do about hand transmission? And by the way, the virus is very weak virus. You have to be close. You have to basically be sneezed on in order to get the coronavirus. It's a very mild, weak virus. Yes, it can grow into a pneumonia. It can kill people, and it has. But rarely compared to how much, they're talking about 2%, and that's huge. I don't even know if I don't know how they assess whether somebody died of the coronavirus or they died of being sick or died of being weak, I should say. Anyway, don't worry about the coronavirus. Take your supplements, though. All right, we'll get your calls here in a sec. This one just I found very, very interesting. My poor friends in Florida, they got to deal with hurricanes and invasive pythons and the red bloom. And Florida's such a beautiful state, but man, they got some bad karma or something, because there's some horrible things that happen in Florida. Check this out now. Herpes-riddled monkeys rampage as humans infected by out-of-control macaques, kind of monkey, or rhesus. I think that's how you say it, macaques. I might be getting that wrong, but it's a type of monkey, rhesus monkey. They're on the rampage, and they got herpes. And while the odds are low that you're going to get them, it's 25% of these monkeys, rampaging monkeys in Florida. Can you imagine this? Rampaging monkeys with herpes. And I know that's not really health, but herpes, by the way, another one, the shingles virus, shingles. They gave you shingles vaccine now, right? Herpes and shingles. It can be obviously very miserable, but who gets shingles? People whose immune systems are suppressed. Same idea. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number, and let's see what Robert, my buddy in Nevada, has to say. You always have something cool to say. What's going on, Robert?
Oh, hey, Ben, I got right in halfway through the show. That's got to be a record. So,
yes, sir.
You talked about electricity and so forth. I wanted to know about the body electric. I probably ought to get that book by Becker.
You're talking about by Becker?
Yeah.
That's a great book. What do you know? Why don't you tell me what you know about it, and then I'll tell you. I read it many years ago, and I refer back to it all the time. It's a great book. But I highly recommend it, by the way, if you're interested in how the body heals itself and grows electrically and through electrical fields. This is not hippy dippy airy fairy. This is hardcore medical science that the body heals itself right with morphogenic fields, bioelectrical or electrical morphogenic fields. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Gotcha. I would think. I think I know if someone is epileptic, what happens is the brain is sending out unusual electrical patterns, which is making them twitch like. So if you're not,
it's electrical.
You're not getting those weird. So I'm wondering, talk about electricity in the body, specifically if salt has any bearing on that at all.
Oh, well, heck yeah. Salt is bioelectrical. What is salt? The classification of salt is it is an electrolyte. And that's what electrolytes are. You see, minerals, it gets really, you know how we were talking, I don't know if you heard us a couple months ago or maybe 6 months ago, we talked about minerals versus elements versus atoms. So basically here, when we're talking about bioelectricity and the flow of electricity, we're talking about atoms. The thing about sodium chloride and electrolytes is they become atoms very easily in water. They become atoms. Not everything is an atom. It's usually these things are clumped together. Let me explain that. It's getting confusing. So hang on, Robert. We got to take a break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. Back on The Bright Side, 844-236-6010 is our number. Talking to Robert in Nevada. So before we went to, are you there, Robert? Do we have Robert still?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. So you asked about salt. Now, first of all, you meant table salt, I assume. That's a type of salt.
Yeah.
Salt is a generic term. There's lots of different salts, but you mean table salt, sodium and chloride. So sodium and chloride are two of the electrolytes. There's 8 or so electrolytes. Magnesium's an electrolyte, calcium, potassium, sodium chloride, etc. I think there's 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. Phosphate, sulfate, bicarbonate. But those are the main ones. So these electrolytes are said to be electrolytes because they're electrical. But they're not just electrical. They're only electrical if they're in fluid, particularly water. Electrolytes need to be in water, and they deliver, when they're in water, they support the electrical energy of water. They structure the water, first of all, and that turns water into a conductive substance. Water's not ordinarily conductive. Water's an insulator. But when it has electrolytes in it, it becomes conductive. This is why they tell you to get out of the pool when there's lightning, right? You know how they tell you to get out of the pool? Why? Because there's chlorine in there. There's electrolytes. The water has become electrical because of the electrolytes. So when electrolytes facilitate the electrical energy of fluids. Obviously, the body has a lot of fluids. They not only facilitate electrical energy, they turn water into a conductor. In fact, water is actually, when it relates with the electrolytes in the fluid and when it relates to proteins, it's not a conductor. It's a superconductor. You know what that means? That means instantaneity. That means, boom, speed of light, practically. That means from point A to point B instantaneously. That's how the body communicates from head to toe so fast. That's how you can make a change. That's how you can take a tiny little bit of a supplement, and like vitamin B12, for example, and change your body's entire chemistry, because that B12 is being communicated. The energy from the vitamin B12 is being communicated through all of the fluids in the body instantaneously. That was a great mystery and by the way, there's a great mystery in molecular biology called the Leventhal paradox. They can't figure out why they take these long chains of amino acids, which, from molecularly speaking, are like miles and miles and miles, relative to what we're used to seeing. They're huge amounts, and they unwrap them, these miles and miles and miles of amino acid chains, and they rearrange themselves instantaneously in a split second by themselves, and nobody can figure out how that happens. Does that make sense? They unstring these things. They unstring these things that are incredibly complicated and wrapped around. They call them tertiary because there's 3 different levels of wrapping. It's just incredible how complex they are. And they string them, pull them apart, and then within a split second they rearrange themselves. They couldn't figure out how that's done, and that's done through the fields that are being created electromagnetically. It's matching up with the fields. This is what Becker talks about in the book Bioelectric. This all comes back to that book, The Body Electric. Becker noticed that we heal, and our bodies heal better when there's certain manipulations done to electrical fields around the healing. And then he also noticed with salamanders and lower animals or reptiles and such, they regenerate limbs. And he became fascinated with the regeneration of limbs. And he noticed that there was electrical fields that were around, that could be measured, that were around where the hand or the foot was going to grow. Does that make sense? He could manipulate the electrical
so.
field.
Yeah.
The fields around the space where the hand was supposed to grow into. It's like a shape, like a mold. It's an electrical mold. So these electrical fields are emanated from us that shape us, that mold us. Does that make sense? That's really important because we can control those electrical fields. We can control our molding, the way we shape. We can control regeneration of limbs theoretically because it can be done at a cell level. It's just that higher animals have lost that ability somehow. On a cell level, it can be done. Our liver can do it. There's certain organs that can do it, but on a body level, from a body perspective, we seem to have lost that ability. Limbs don't typically regrow, although I think I've heard fingertips regrowing and things like that. But for the most part, we don't regrow things, and that's the great mystery: is why, as animals get more complex, have they lost that ability to regenerate to the same degree that a salamander or a lizard can. So in any case, it's all bioelectrical, and it has to do with bioelectrical fields, and the good news is we can control those. We can control, well, good news, bad news. The good news is we can control them with nutrition, we can control with our thoughts, we can control through movement. The bad news is we're subject to to interference because we live in an electromagnetic sea of artificial energy, and just in the last 100 years, just lights, not to mention computers and the scanners at the supermarket and revolving and the doors that open and close. I mean, we're surrounded with all of these things. At 5G now, we're surrounded with all of this stuff, and that's got to have an impact on the body. Not that you want to be alarmist about it, and not that you can really do anything about it, but what you can do always, locus of control. Control your electromagnetics. Control your electronics. And I want to talk about fats later, and the steroid hormones, by the way. That's also important. The fatty system of the body also plays a role in electrical energy in the sense that it's so cool. The electricity flows on the water-soluble stuff, but the fatty stuff, it controls it so it doesn't flow too fast. It modulates it. Fats are called capacitors. Fats act like capacitors. A capacitor is something that kind of holds on to the energy a little bit so it can be controlled. A semiconductor, it holds on to the energy so the energy doesn't overwhelm things. You got to have energy, but you got to have that energy controlled. And that control is accomplished through the fats. Fats control everything. And that's where the fats become really important. And cancer cells and sick cells always have disturbances in the fats around them. And that's why fats are so important. They control that flow of electrical energy into cells and really in the body in general. They modulate the flow so it's not too much. So it's a combination. You got to have the flow, and then you have like a dial. Think of the fats like a dial. You turn up, you turn the volume up, you can turn the volume down. That's what the fats do. They're the volumized. In radio, we have these things called pots or potentiometers. They're like dials. You turn it all the way to the right, it maxes out. You turn it all the way to the left, it goes to zero, and that's what the fats do. And the electricity, and you're not going to hear anybody else say that because that just came out of my head, but that's literally what's happening. Not literally, but that's an analogy to what's literally happening. Does that make sense, my friend?
Wow. I think so.
Is that too much? I hope I didn't lose anybody. I maybe lost some people.
That's a lot, but that's how you roll, Ben. You're the man. You know it all, so you got to lay it out there.
I definitely know. I don't take that on, but you know what? Everything I talk about here is just visualization. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate your call. Thanks for the kind words. Take care, man. So it's not smart. It's visualization. You got to be able to visualize what's happening, and that's what I'm trying to do in this program. Is I want us all to be able to visualize what's happening because it has nothing to do with being smart. Because I'm not that smart. But I can visualize it and I can see it kind of in my mind's eye. So that may sound smart, but what really is, when you can visualize something, you can really see it, you can own it. It's yours because it's part of you. When you can visualize it and see it, when you know it, you're still a little bit separated from it. But when it's yours, you can actually see it. It's in your body. And that's the point we want to get to with our bodies. We want to own how our bodies work. And that's why in the skincare world, I'm always blown away by people just rubbing stuff on their skin and not having any idea what they're rubbing on. Not just not reading the ingredient deck, not even knowing that it's there. Not even just being completely oblivious to that, and I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying that the fact that we're so disassociated from how our bodies work because we can't visualize it allows us to do these crazy things. And unfortunately, if your doctor can't visualize what's happening, and most of them, I don't say most of them, a lot of the medical model is based on memorization. It's based on protocols. It's based on textbooks. It's based on studies. I had a guy, he didn't mention my name, but he did a talk, and he said, some guy is saying this, and that, and I'm not going to get into what he said exactly, but then he said, he must not read the studies. And he was referring to me, I found out. And no, you're right, I don't read the studies because I don't pay attention to the studies. Studies could be anything. Studies are irrelevant if you understand the body. It's chemistry. It's biology. It's how things are put together. It's not a study. Studies are based on statistics, which, as has been said many times, the three kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics. Studies are based on statistics. And our medical model is really based on statistics and studies. And this is the problem. This is why we have a pharmacomedical model that has deluded us into thinking it works, because it's studies. It's all based on studies. You got to visualize these things, and once you visualize them, you won't need anyone to tell you how your body works. Once you can own it visually, feel it somatically in your body. Feel the body in the body. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for listening. Please check out our websites, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for longevity products and Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.